Welcome back to FM Jeeping. My name is Mark, and today we're going to be installing the XOFab DIY roll cage kit in a 1998 Jeep Cherokee XJ. So XOFab, when they send in their kit, sends it in two different boxes. Everything's kind of cut to length, at least the kit that I had, which is pretty much, it's already pre-notched and everything. So really it's slightly cut to length and weld in. But what they do is the halo, they cut up in a couple different sections. They provide slugs that sleeve the tube. And then what I'm going to do is drill holes, plug weld, and then I'm going to bezel both ends and then fill in the crack. One of the more confusing things, however, is the halo, because the halo is not something very kind of identified, so you kind of have to dry fit it. What I did was I put it on the ground, and I spent probably about an hour messing around, setting it up and lining it up, and for the most part a lot of it is locked in place just based on resistance and bends. But yeah, definitely go dry fit this thing first before you go crazy. So also included in the kit are these base plates. There's 4 of them for each one of the uprights that go to the halo. These are supplied, they go on the floor between basically your factory sheet metal and the tube. So that way, if in case of a rollover, impact, and things like that, the impact goes through this plate and then into the sheet metal. It's a lot harder to punch through sheet metal with this type of surface as opposed to a tube, which will literally just punch right clean through pretty easily. This will eliminate that from happening and help distribute some of that impact. Now that I got the cage mocked up, I'm going to go ahead, clean off some of the mating surfaces, measure everything out, make sure everything is equal, squared, and the way it's supposed to be. Double check to make sure all the angles are right, and I'll start tacking in each one of the joints, and we'll go from there. Got a couple minutes before the end of the night. I'm just going to go ahead, put some beads on the halo to kind of lock everything down in place, and we'll go from there. So I did some more reading, and And I'd also talked to a couple people that actually ended up doing this kit. And overall, the reviews have been pretty positive. The only thing that I was made aware of is to make sure that these crossbars here obviously are going to be where you want them. I'm a bigger guy, especially for this XJ. Sorry, the mess this is kind of a storage area. I want to move my seats all the way back because that's typically how I run. And I was told that basically the way I had it, it would have put my bar right behind this pillar here, which in most cases is probably what you want. However, I wouldn't be able to move my seat back all the way. So now I moved it back roughly about 1.5 inches to 2 inches, and I'm going to be I'm going to miss my seat, if you can imagine. This is the bar here, ding, and it's going to be, you can imagine, just about right here. Now it's going to be obviously inside the vehicle, but it's too tall for me to put in. Still have to cut the hole in the roof, which is going to be next. But I went ahead and moved it back, and that also moves this back. Now, if I had kept this the way I was going to keep it, I would have hit my rear seat and wouldn't have been able to put my rear seat back. So definitely check, measure, and check, measure again. I'm kind of glad I talked to who I talked to. Tucker, if you're out there, thank you. Kind of made me aware because I was ready to start cutting holes, and there's no turning back once we do that. So I'm going to go ahead, re-measure everything one more time, and I think we're going to go ahead. All right, gonna do one more quick measurement and then I'm drilling. I can't believe I'm doing it, but gotta move forward. Okay, there we go. It's pretty good. Now it's going to cut out a little bit of the space back here for the passengers, but unfortunately it's kind of what needs to happen. So I've got those two down. Right now they're just placed. I got one more to do, and unfortunately that's all I'm going to be able to do for tonight. So till tomorrow. so now that the hair raising experience is over, punching holes through the roof of a vehicle, never fun, I'm going to go ahead, test fit the halo on all the pipes I just ran through the roof. They're not set 100% right now because the base plates are still not welded in and the pipes are not welded to the base plates. I did that for a couple of reasons. I just want to make sure all the fitment is good because there is a little bit of adjustment here and there, but nothing crazy. Pretty much once it pokes through the roof, it's poked through the roof, so there's really not much you can do. That's why I measure, measure, measure. I say that. Let's see if I did it right. All in all, not happy with the fitment. So hopefully I can kind of manipulate this around a little bit and fix it. So new plan. I'm not totally thrilled with the fitment of the supporting bars or the supporting tube. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to egg out with a flap disc. I'm going to egg out the other side. So this will cradle a little bit more. Because the cradle is nice on the other side. It's nice and tight. So what I'm going to do is just open it up and then let the cage sit a little bit lower. I'm hoping that should do the trick. I have some tube that I can lay across to test, and I think that's ultimately what I'm going to do. Because this is too much of a gap. If it was a little tighter, half this, I'd probably be okay. And even still, you want this locked in. Since this is like the main part of the cage, I'm going to try to get this as tight as possible. So after some thought, I went back and I cleaned up the opposite side, or the far side notch. I opened it up because it was kind of tapered this way. My mistake, I moved the uprights too far this way. So to compensate, I opened up this side of the notch, and now the cage sits flush in the notch. It's pretty locked in side to side. Obviously, if I go up and down, it'll come out. But it's a pretty tight gap. A little crazy here, but nothing out of the ordinary. And I'm going to go ahead and do that on the rest of them. So, I think we saved it. Now that I've got the B uprights, the B plates centered, tacked in, I'm going to do the same for the C's. I got to come through, clearance a little bit here and there, measure, center, get this all taken care of. When that's done, go up to the top on the halo, center the halo, tack that in, and then I can start working on the A-pillars. Now the A-pillars are going to be a little bit more fun. So once I get to the A-pillar part, it's going to mount up here, run along the A-pillar. It's going to come in here, through here somewhere. I'm going to use a hole saw and cut so that the pipe goes in seamless. So it's not going to try to look too hacked up, and it's going to terminate right here my B-pillar. Rock slider. So let's get to measuring that C-pillar. The interior plates are all welded in. The tubes on the interior are all welded in, with the exception of the crossbars. I'm going to do those a little bit later. I want to go ahead, get the halo centered left to right on the vehicle, tack that in, and then I can kind of start finish welding everything. All right, so now I got the halo welded up with the B and C pillars. I'm going to go ahead, pull the fenders off again, and start mocking up the A pillars. There we go. All right, so now I got to measure where I want the A pillars to go, and basically I'm going to have to cut probably 2 to 3 inches off the bottom, because I think they gave you a little bit more than you need, but we're about to find out. Okay, so something I want to try to do, I got to see if this is going to work or not, is I want to get the A pillar upright to start right where this one ends, so that way if there's any type of impact, it'll put the impact down through here, through this pipe, and then down into my A-pillar, into my rock slider. So that's ideally what I'm going to try to do. I want to try to have it terminate or begin, whatever you want to call it, at the very end of this pipe, so it's almost like it's not seamless, but it's in line. So let's see what I can do. So I don't know if it's me getting bigger. I know the Jeep's getting bigger, but the garage feels like it's getting smaller. So I apologize for the mess. All right, so I'm pretty happy with the fitment that I got. I'm gonna go ahead and tack it in a couple places. I'm going to do the other side. With the A-pillars tacked in, I went back, checked the fitment, everything seems like it's pretty spot on. All the measurements are the same on both sides. The only thing that's a little different is my stick out down here on the rock slider. That was probably me, because I probably had the rock slider on the other side shifted back probably a 1/16 of an inch, which is why it's off. So I'm not thinking too much of it. But the fact is that everything terminates where it's supposed to. Everything has the same gap as it's supposed to. So I'm going to go ahead and burn these in real quick. So for all intents and purposes, at least prescribed by the company that made this kit, I am done on the outside. However, I'm going to do something that I've seen a couple other people do that I really like, and I think I'm going to go ahead and try. I've seen a couple of people tie in to this pinch seam here with this pipe using some maybe 1/4 inch or 3/16 inch tie-in plates, basically just one long piece. I've seen people do dimple dies, which looks really cool. However, I don't have dimple dies, so I might just run some stock there, 2x8, 2 inch wide, 8 inch tall possibly. I just got to figure out where I want to tie it in. Maybe tie it into the corner here. Ooh, that's still a little toasty. Tie it into the corner here so I can weld it on at least on one side there and both sides on the pipe. And then furthermore, the one that I'm really concerned about is the one in the back on the C-pillar. Now the C-pillar, if you look right here, this is where I welded on the inside. Underneath here you can see where I welded. I'm going to take a piece of 1/4 inch angle iron. I'm going to weld right here, have it come up here and have a 90-degree out. I'm going to cut it to match under here so it's hidden, and then basically I might either bolt it through. I'm not sure I'm going to weld it. I might just straight bolt it through on a couple places and kind of really get that tie in, because I want something that, God forbid we ever were to roll over, that the feet won't punch clean through the sheet metal. Now I'm being told it won't. Part of me doesn't trust that, so I'm just going to go ahead and build like a little footing right here on the unibody so I have more tie-in. I mean, what's to say? That's more strength, that's more rigidity to the cage, makes it a little bit stronger. Why the hell not? So yeah, I'm going to go ahead once again, weld in that angle iron here, and then underneath here, if you can see, I think I'm right here. Yep, I got a small gap here. What I might do is put a plate, a 1/4 inch plate underneath, like through this, and then weld little legs that go up on either side. Like a 2-inch piece that goes straight up and kind of holds that 1/4 in place. So then that way I have more tie-in to the cage, and I'll just maybe bolt it through. Not sure yet. We'll see what happens. But yeah, that's kind of it. So we'll do that next. One time when removable doors pays off. With the front support plate welded in and finished, I painted it real quick. I'm going to go ahead and I want to finish off the fender. Now I already did the driver's side. I'm so on the results. It fits pretty well. There's some finished trim piece that I might do a little bit later with rubber, just to kind of make it look seamless or make it look better. But I'm going to do this side, the passenger side, a little bit different. I didn't film the driver's side because I'm still a little unsure on how I want to do this, but there is one thing that I did learn. Basically, everything that's above here, above this body line here, is not going to clear. Especially since I have my pipe hugged against the cowl here. I mean, it's hugged right on there. So what I'm going to do is take a 2-inch hole saw, because this is 1 3/4. Try to find the center where it's going to be and put the very end of the circle, if you can imagine, kind of like this, right on top of this body line here. And then I'm going to adjust my cut, so it's going to go up and then kind of cut this way to match the contour of the pipe. So I always hate body work. Let's do it. So right off the go, what I'm gonna do something a little bit different. I'm gonna go ahead, cut a slot here, so I can get the fender closer to where I want it to be. And then that'll help me line up where on the bottom part of this I'm gonna use the hole saw. All right, so now that I got this a little bit closer, I'm gonna open this up, round this out just a little bit. I want it to be snug for now, just so I can kind of get my general shape, and then I can use a flat disc just to kind of smooth everything out, make it look pretty. So I've already bent it up. It fits a lot better. Now I have a general idea, because now I can stick my head underneath here and file this around. Most likely put probably right about there is where I'll hole saw, and then I'll just connect the dots. That didn't work out as planned. All right, I gotta do something a little different here. I f***ed this up. So I messed up. I can't believe I messed up, but I messed up. I cut way too far over here and not enough over here. My hole saw decided I wanted to kind of, if you look, walked about maybe quarter, it walked a bunch. And when it did, it went this far. Should have been more right here. So I'm gonna have to smooth this out. I gotta cheat for this, but I didn't really want to use it. Alright, let me be right back. Cleaned it up. Might still take this out a little bit more, but what I'm gonna do, I gotta come up here a little bit more. I'm gonna thin this out, but what I'm gonna grab is a piece of rubber hose, slice it down the middle, and basically just run it this way and all around to kind of make like a seal. It's not gonna be perfect, but at least it covers up a lot of my blems here. And yeah, we should be golden. Didn't, like I said, I'm not happy. This was a lot wider than my other side, so I'm gonna have to open it up, kind of blend it. And I gotta open up this area just a little bit right up here. But yeah, overall, it's not terrible. I would have liked to keep this a little bit more, but all in all, she'll do. So now that I got the front squared away, I'm going to work on the back. Now here is the plates I've welded in. Please don't mind the welding. Welding to sheet metal sucks. But I try to get as hot as I could without burning through, and a couple places I did. So I'm going to smooth this out. But what I want to do is I want to plate underneath where this mounts. Now some of this sits on top of the unibody where it kind of flares out. However, I want something a little bit more sturdy. So to kind of help support those rear foot plates for my C-pillar, I'm going to go ahead, get some 1/4 inch angle iron. I'm going to weld it to the unibody and kind of have it go up and then come out. I'm going to have to trim it a little bit because I think I have 3x3, which is fine. I'd rather do that. I'm going to be able to weld it here, have it push tight against the sheet metal. This is basically right underneath where that foot plate sits, and then that way, in case for, you know, if anything were to happen, I have that force getting transferred through the unibody and through the frame and through the thickest part of this vehicle, which is pretty much the plate of the unibody because of the stiffeners. That should tie everything in, keep everything rock solid, and help distribute any type of force that's kind of put onto the cage from a rollover or an impact or anything like that. So that's what I'm going to try to do. I got to go find the 1/4-inch angle iron. It's in my garage here somewhere. Measure it out, cut it to length, and then clean it up and start welding. And there it is. Nice. Actually, I don't know if I'm gonna have to trim it down a little bit. This might be perfect. I'm gonna have to cut it, obviously, but oh yes, awesome. I'm gonna cut it down. That's more than what I need, and it fits in there freaking perfect. This is awesome. This has got to be, I think this is 2.5 by 2.5. Not exactly sure, but it is 1/4, and that's what I want. So I'm just gonna go ahead, measure it out, give myself a little bit of room to work in case I don't line those holes up right, and we should be good to go. 5 inches. All right, so I think I'm going to do a slight change of plan. Now, I had originally wanted to use 4 bolts through the floor into the new plate that I'm going to weld in. However, the holes that came in the foot plate aren't going to line up very well to what I want to do. I think 2 of the holes will go through the arc of the angle iron, and then the other 2 are going to be on the very outskirts of the very end of the angle iron. So instead, I'm going to drill 2 holes on either side of the bar, right in the middle, and then through bolted that way. That should be enough to at least keep the bar from sliding. I mean, it's welded in, but it'll hopefully in an impact it'll keep it nice and tight and won't have any side to side motion, and all the force will go down through the sheet metal into that angle iron that I'm going to weld to the unibody. So I'm going to use 2 6-inch pieces of 1/4-inch angle. It's a 3x3 angle iron. It's a little dirty, but this should do just fine. Yep, good. I think it covers it right there. Something is really off. What the hell is going on? To find out my welder settings were a little off, my spool was a little too tight, and my tension was a little too low. So messed up a little bit on the other side, so we're gonna have to grind that out, clean it up a little bit, but done. Gonna move to the other side. After this, we can go inside and weld up the C cross member, because I'm not gonna do the B because I want to set it up for harnesses. So slight change of plan. I don't have enough bolts to do the through bolting on the tie-in plate to the rear feet and the C-pillar. So instead I'm going to just go ahead, weld in the cross member or the cross beam for the C-pillar so I can get that done while I wait till tomorrow to get more bolts at the store. So now with the C-bar in, and I'm going to add to this eventually, I want to do a bar from that corner to here, and then a bar from that corner to here, and I might even do a bottom bar and a bar across the top, just to kind of really dial in that rear mount, so that way if we do roll over, this isn't a crush zone and we can get out of the vehicle. So at this point, I'm going to do a little bit of research. Now, there's a couple schools of thought here when it comes to 5-point harness bars. I've heard it's 2 to 3 inches below your shoulder blades or shoulders. I've heard that you don't want to go more than a 10 degree angle from the bar. You know, you don't want the strap to have more than a 10 degree angle upward, I believe, which is why I got to do a little bit more research. I want to run 5-point harnesses eventually, but I want to make sure that if I put the bar in, this is the last time I put this bar in, at least until I add some supports and stuff like that. But I want to make sure it's right. I want to make sure it's safe, and I want to make sure it's up to par. So what I'm going to do is check a couple rule books in terms of roll cages and what is suggested through governing bodies, you know, SCCA and all that other good stuff, and just kind of get a consensus of how that bar should be. So that's kind of where I am right now. So we're going to wait until I check that out. So before I hit the books, I wanted to get in the Jeep, sit down, feel how everything was going to feel with the cage in place, feel where my seat is, where I like to put it, so I have a better idea on where that harness bar should run. And I'm kind of glad I did that. I got in, reclined, and found my seat was not fully moved forward, but you know, 3/4 of the way back. But I put the seat back where I like it, which is right where it is. It's fully back all the way. And if you look, that bar is right in my seat. Now, if I had a straight bar that went right underneath that, it would be contacting and limiting where my seat would be, which means my seat would have to be, actually, it's fully, I'd have to ride probably like this. And this is not comfortable for me. That's a little bit better. So what I'm going to have to do, I think I'm going to have to get a hold of a bender or somebody with a bender, get another piece of pipe, longer piece, and I'm going to do probably like 30 to 40 degree angles out and kind of bend the 5-point harness bar around me and have it come out here and then turn in to here. I think that's probably what I'm going to have to do. So I'm at a place now where I'm probably going to conclude this video. I have a couple things I'm going to have to do behind the scenes before I can call this cage 100% complete. I have to do my angled harness bar to clear my seats, and I'm also going to add some other bars later on down the line, especially on the C pillar and on the B pillar. I want to do some triangulation to the center of those bars and kind of make a nice crisscross and a node in the middle, just to kind of help strengthen this thing up. In conclusion, I think this is a pretty good kit. It's not the end-all be-all. I think in a flop or a single rollover situation, this kit will definitely do the job. If you're going to go heavy and potentially roll multiple times, you're probably going to want to add on to this kit or look for something else. I think this is a great base kit if you have plans on, you know, teaching yourself to, you know, do more tube work and bending and things like that. I think this is a great entry-level kit. This kit is under $1,000. It's shipped to your door, and you can do it in a garage. As you can see, my garage is not that big. Some things that I did run into that were kind of tricky is dealing with the lower height. It was hard to work on the rig, especially since my rig's much taller now, in the low ceiling. I got it done. It did take 2 people to get the halo back on the Jeep. It is what it is. And the other thing I have, my only gripe with this, is I wish that it came with a little better instruction. The kit came pre-packaged, pre-cut, pre-notched, which is great. It kind of steers you in the right direction. However, there's some things that I kind of encountered along the way that I wish I had some clarification. I think that my uprights are inward or inboard just a little too much, and I kind of wish they were maybe an inch or two more outboard toward the exterior of the vehicle. That way the uprights are catching on the downward slope of the halo. But you know, it was already too late. I measured and measured and measured probably for about 2 hours just because I wanted to make it right, and ultimately they did end up right. That's kind of it. I mean, my only big gripe with this kit is that I wish it just came with a better guide. Not even instructions, just better guide, like say, hey, anything you do, try to do this. So that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed the installation of the ExoFab DIY kit. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, criticisms, leave those down in the comment section below where they belong. If you liked what you saw and you want to see more, please consider subscribing. Click the little bell icon next to the subscription button. We'll let you know when I release new videos. I have plenty more coming down the pipeline. I have a suspension kit that we're installing, as well as some updates on the 1-ton swap. So until then, we'll catch you on the next one.